Hello, this is Trish the Beekeeper. This is a part of the beginner beekeeping series. This is all about options that you have to think about buying, everything but the bees. All right, without further ado, we're going to go to my slideshow because it helps me organize my thoughts. And I have some cool pictures. So I am going to introduce myself again in case you weren't watching from the beginning. I'm a beekeeper in Northeast Ohio. It's my 5th year beekeeping. Or is it my 6th? Somewhere in there. I started with a swarm, which is not ideal. And I've used the double deep system. I've used alternative beehives. I've tried a lot of different beekeeping, but I think I've settled into my groove. I have a website with lots of beginner beekeeper info and other info because I know beekeeping is challenging and I want you guys to really be able to enjoy it. And if you're local, I have bees for sale and honey for sale. I'm on Facebook, although I don't post that often. I'm on YouTube. If you're local, I'm at the Geauga Fresh Farmers Market and the Geauga County Beekeepers Association. Okay, I have 15 hives that I raise to sell as overwintered nukes. I have 15 honeymaker hives, so it's about 30 total, and that's plenty for me. I raise my own queens. I just really enjoy beekeeping. Okay, this is about options. The very first option we're going to talk about is protecting the woodenware. So, as I mentioned, I started beekeeping when a swarm landed in a pine tree. So I had to drive that day and get the beekeeping equipment, assemble it, and we did not take the time to paint it. And I didn't realize I could have just painted it later with the bees in the hive, really. But we did a quick urethane that was not sufficient. So see where these fingers are, the wood grain's exposed. You want to paint this with 2 coats and make sure, the whole hive with 2 coats, and make sure that the end grain is well protected. I use just latex indoor paint. I will buy the off-color stuff that's $9 a gallon and use that. And that's what I do for paint. There's lots of other options. It's all about options. You can look into wax dipped. That would be my preference, but I really haven't found a good way to do that. And now I just build my own boxes from scratch. Yeah, there's a lot of, you can get pre-painted. I mean, there's options, but latex paint is fine. You don't need any kind of special paint. Okay, we're going to talk about options, and I'm going to do some show and tell stuff. So let's go to the camera here, and we're going to talk about some of the options you have. You have to have a lid. The lid goes, of course, on top of the hive. You have to have a lid, and make sure you paint the lid. See this wood grain that's exposed? Paint that, and then it'll last longer. This is a metal topped one. You get the plastic ones, kind of doesn't matter. Get a lid. I mean, you obviously need a lid. I do not recommend the migratory lids. I recommend these telescoping lids. That's the buzzword that threw me off a lot. The migratory ones are a piece of plywood with a handle. I don't recommend that for a backyard beekeeper. They blow off more easily. Yeah, you don't want that. Under the lid, you're going to have an inner cover. Once again, we have options. This one has a notch. And it's about equidistant depth here and here. You can find options where it's deeper on one side than the other. You can find, well, generally it just has the one hole. Sometimes it has a notch. I made more holes because I love it for my feeder jars. I'll talk about that in another class. You have to have an inner cover of some kind. I have one hive, it's just a piece of plywood because I didn't have an inner cover handy. I just drilled the holes in it, and it has kind of a notch. It's not a very good one. But see this is extra comb the bees did, and they were attaching the frame to the inner cover. So you're going to use your hive tool every time and be prying the inner cover apart from the box. And the notch will go forward. You want the notch towards the entrance. And you're going to have to pry like you mean it, although not from the front. You don't work the bees from the front. I'll talk about that in another video. Getting some kind of inner cover is not an option, but you can just use a piece of canvas or oilcloth. So that's an inner cover or telescoping inner cover. Okay. For the frames, I'm just going to say, just get the wood ones with the waxed foundation. It doesn't really matter what color. It's just hard to see eggs. Black's probably a little better. If you have gotten the plastic ones already, don't worry about it. Just be aware it's more of an issue with small hive being able to hide in these molded wax or molded plastic sidebars. But, you know, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. That will be pre-waxed. The bees interpret this as comb that was started and then abandoned, but only if it's waxed with beeswax. So, okay, one of the most confusing parts can be thinking about the boxes. So the boxes all are intended to lift off the base. This is the base, and mine's bolted down. Just pretend it's lifting off as I talk about that idea. This is what's called a deep. When you start with your new bees, they're going to go into just this deep. They're going to outgrow it quickly, and that's normal. This is part of what we call the brood chamber or the brood nest. When you have a hive, the queen lays eggs, bees take care of the eggs, there's baby bees. All of that will be in the brood nest or brood chamber. It's going to have to be more than one box. You're going to start with one box, the hive will grow. You have some choices about what the next size box is. You can do another deep, which is 9 and 5, 16, I don't remember, 9 and something, but you don't have to. You could do what's called a medium super as your next box. And that's 6 3/4. And this would be the box, goes next. After your bees have just about drawn out maybe 3/4 of the frames, and just about all the frames are covered with bees, time to add the next box. This will be the complete brood nest. It could be this is a deep, just like this one. It could be this is a medium or even a shallow honey super. You could use that instead as the next box. I have some hives that I'm doing that with. This is a shallow. It's just a little bit shallower. It's 5 3/4 tall. The bees need more than one box for the queen and the baby bees for the brood chamber. This will also be their winter quarters. A deep and a medium is fine for winter quarters in Ohio. Totally fine. They will fill these frames with honey in September. And you will have to take this off and check the queen. And it's nice when this is not a deep. When this is a medium, this is still 45 pounds when it's full of honey. All right. Oh, just for fun, I'm going to show you a honey frame. Oh, this is a frame of capped honey. Isn't that gorgeous? This is a shallow frame. It's about 3 pounds. All right. What else? Okay, so that ends our show and tell for now. Let's see what else I was going to talk about. Okay. I showed you the honey supers a little bit. Okay, we're going to go to the base. What else do I have? Yeah, we'll just go back to the base. Okay. The base. The base is what the box sits on. This is a solid base. What's a solid base? It's solid. There's no screen. Here you can see from the bottom, sort of. It's a solid piece of wood under there. I don't recommend that for you for your first year of beekeeping. But if you get a solid base, the bees will be okay. You're going to lose some important information. This is a screen bottom board. This is the bottom board insert, or whatever it's called. Oh, my God, crumble's falling. The screen allows debris to fall down. So, the hive sits on top like this. This is the entrance. And the insert catches the debris so you can look at it. And then you can get information from it. It's really helpful for understanding if your mite management is working. Okay, we're going to go back to our slideshow for just a minute. Okay, yep, we talked about the lidded inner cover and the hive bodies. Okay, I just wanted to go back to the hive bodies for a minute so you can think about some of your options. So I'm talking about where the queen lives with the baby bees, with the brood, and this will also be the same size as their winter quarters. Single 10 frame deep, I don't recommend it. I know beekeepers who do this in the north, and they're successful. They did not start out their beekeeping with a single deep as their brood chamber and winter quarters later in the year. You could do a 10 frame deep and a 10 frame super, a medium or a shallow. We typically call supers the box that's going to be for honey, but a medium is the size, and it can either be for honey, or in this case it would be part of the brood chamber. You could use 3 boxes that are 8 frames wide and they're medium in height. I recommend 3. 2 is going to probably be too small. You could do an 8 frame double deep. That'll work great too. You could do a 10 frame double deep. A lot of people have had good success with that. I don't like it, so I've looked for alternatives because I'm me. And you're going to be potentially in a different situation. Most of what we have written in books and classes and stuff is about the 10 frame double deep. So it's nice to be able to tap into that. Whoa, totally alternative. There's a long hive or top bar hive. I don't recommend the Kenyan hive. It has particular dimensions. It's what people generally mean when they say top bar, but it doesn't have to be. There's some that have the wider top part and wider bottom part that's still a triangle. Check out my website if you want to learn more about these options. Oh, the Dedant Deep has one super tall frame, and it's only 10 frames total. And I have all about how to make it and stuff on my website. So if you're not super handy, you can still make this kind of hive. Okay, honey supers, just some numbers here. When people say the honey super, these are the boxes placed on top of the brood chamber. As the hive population grows and as nectar comes in, you need to put honey supers on. The bee population goes from the size of a toy poodle to bigger than a standard poodle in a couple of months, and you have to add boxes. We don't just keep all of the boxes on and let the bees shrink and all that. It's not optimal for the bees. So we tailor the number of boxes to their population. Okay, and I talked about the base already. Now, the hive stand. I really recommend the hive be at least 6 inches above the ground. 1 cinder block isn't enough. 2 is good. 3 is awfully tall, because you don't want to go much above 12, 18 inches. As honey supers, they're going to go on top of the brood chamber. You're going to have 3 on a lot of hives. They'll need that much space, and you really don't want to have to use a stool to get to the top supers, both because you're holding a box that's heavy full of bees, and you're standing next to a tower of boxes that's full of bees, and yeah, better to avoid needing a stool. Okay, options. We are going to talk now about options for what to buy for your beekeeping kit. That's not the box and not the bees. All right, so now we're going to go into show and tell zone and talk about these options. All right, gloves. I still wear gloves. I don't really like the feeling of bees on my fingers. And I like nitrile gloves. Because COVID, they got hard to find, but you can still find them. I don't think this brand is available anymore to regular people. I buy nitrile gloves that say more than just they're heavy duty. And I don't buy them from the store. I have to order them because I want them to be pretty thick, because your finger can get caught between, not your finger, the tip of the glove can get caught between the frame and the box as you're putting the frame in. You pull back, you don't want to leave the glove behind. And I can wear these gloves like 10 inspections in a row. No, like 10 days in a row. And I'm doing more than 1 inspection a day. So they'll last a long time. These are the other more traditional gloves. I don't recommend them, but if you have to wear them to be comfortable, then do it. If you're going to wear these gloves, be aware it's very hard to pick up a frame and have good control. So don't. Use these to pick up the frame. And this is called a frame grabber. And there's 2 styles here. options again. If you're wearing the goat skin gloves, try to get them in your size. They're only $20. If you buy the wrong size, buy another pair. And you use this to grab the frame and pull up. I like this one because it's made in the US and a little heavier duty, but the other one works fine too. I use this for the first frame in the box only, because you can drop the frame. There is less stability and control compared to when you're using your fingers. If I was using these gloves, I would use them for every frame. Okay, frame grabbers. Well, what about actually getting the frames out? So this is a Hive tool. This one has a really great scraper for when propolis has built up on the edge of the box. Oh, this does a great job. This is really nice. And it has the pry bar function, which you're going to need. This is called a J tool. It's really nice because you slip it under the frames and then just can push your target frame out. And it's got the pry bar effect. Nice stuff. Last but not least is the veil. I use, there it is. Oh no, there's also the smoker after that. I use a jacket. The elastic's kind of long gone. The veil part is attached. If the zipper breaks, can't use this really anymore. It's just not going to, it doesn't have a very good collar without the zip-on veil. So I resisted buying these for a long time, but I love this one. It's called the Be Cool. There's some other ones that have the mesh so that when the wind blows, you might actually get cooled off when you're sweating. It gets holes that I then tape over. Not ideal. If you're going to go with the canvas option, just, pour water on yourself periodically to cool off. That works well. The veil part, I really don't like this. It's really hard to see through. I like the veil on the hat. Veils, the screen part on the hat veils better. I can see through it better. This is really nice for just going back and changing out their sugar syrup. You should wear what you're comfortable in. If you aren't sure, for a while I wore a thin windbreaker and this. Although it had elastic back then, or a tie. So if you feel that the full body suit is what you need, okay. If you feel you need the full body suit because you might get stung and then you'll need an EpiPen, I'm going to really question whether this is the best course. But you can find a way. People find a way. There's duct tape, there's elastic to hold things closed, but saying that you'll never get stung is not realistic. The bees can sting through these. It's really, really rare because when they walk on it, they interpret it as like plastic, that they can't sting. But sometimes they will try and sting through it. Smoker. I have a short smoker. It works fine. It lasts like 20-30 minutes. I'm not puffing like crazy. They get a few puffs if I need them to move. I'll talk more about how I use the smoker in another video. I use coarse pine bedding, not the fine, coarse. So you can get it at Tractor Supply. It's like $6 for 3 cubic feet. It's a lot. This is what you need for your smoker. Doesn't really matter about the fuel, but this is really what you should use to light your smoker. It's called a plumber's friend. Plumbing stores will have this attachment. This is just a propane, like you would have for a propane stove for camping. There's some options for the attachment, but the idea is you just click this to start your flame, and it's so nice. It makes it really quick to relight the smoker. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of techniques for stacking, and I just put the pine bedding in, and that works great. That sums up equipment options. I have a few more things. No, I think I'm about done actually. Yeah, that's it. So that is all I have to say about your shopping list for everything minus the bees. So, happy hunting for your stuff.